Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar, the Groupon Cookbook to Explosive Mobile Growth and Amazing User Experience. Really honored that you took the time out of your day to join us. We are going to be getting this ball rolling once my screens move forward here. There we go. So let me give you a little bit of context to how we'll spend the next, say, 45 minutes or so. We will be running through an agenda with Mike Burton. So welcome, Mike. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Josh.
So Mike is the head of mobile engineering at Groupon. He's been there for four years, and in addition to his work at Groupon as sort of leading the mobile team, he's been keeping himself busy with open source projects, RoboJuice, and also is an author of a book, which we are honored to be able to offer to attendees. So we'll give you more details about that in a moment. So let me just give you a little bit of a roadmap about how we'll spend our time today. Punchline is the star of the show here is going to be Mike. We'll just quickly do some more introductions and housekeeping, give you a little context of just very briefly, who Criticism is. But then we'll talk about a little bit of background on Groupon, mobile apps, and sort of how Groupon thinks about mobile, a bit about the team. Then we'll drill into different kind of use cases about performance and how the experience, how Groupon approaches the experience and improving that. And we'll close out with some benefits and lessons learned, and then we'll also leave some time here for you to ask some questions of Mike. So quick housekeeping. While the lines are muted, we would really appreciate your questions. What you'll notice is on the side of the screen you have a little chat pod. You can enter in questions there, and we'll be watching those. We'll either take them as they come, or we'll have time set aside at the end of the webinar where we will, Mike will have an opportunity to answer some of those questions. We often get asked, well, what happens with this webinar? Will I get a recording? Yes, we're definitely recording it, and we'll be happy to send it to you at the conclusion of the webinar. So we package it up, and you'll probably get it next week. And then finally, Mike has written a fantastic book about application development with Android, and we're lucky enough to be able to make that available to you. Please stick around till the end of the webinar. We'll give you the details and how that fulfillment would work and how we get that in your hands. So with that, I'm just going to quickly do two quick slides before handing it over to Mike. First of all, I just wanted to give you a very high-level background on Criticism and what we do and why we're on this webinar with Mike. So Criticism is the leading mobile application performance management company. We help companies run their mobile apps better, faster, smarter, and we do that by analyzing the operational and technical metrics of that application when it's running and providing that insight to companies to better monitor, prioritize, troubleshoot, and trend the performance of their mobile apps. The company is really built from the ground up with mobile in mind. We are only really focusing on mobile technologies, and that's where our founders and our team spends their days thinking about. We operate at a very large scale, so we have over 1 billion monthly active users on our system in 120 countries. So the company has, we're very lucky to have a number of great investors like Google Ventures, Gale Venture Partners, Opus, Shasta, and Accenture along with us for the ride. Just recently got our Series C, so we're very excited about the growth that we're going through. The company is lucky to call a number of customers. Along with Groupon, we also work with a number of great customers across various different industries, both in the technology space as well as financial, gaming, e-commerce, and health. The technology is used both in a B2C context for mobile apps as well as a B2E scenario and use cases. And with that, I'd like to sort of turn the tables here, and I'm going to hand it over to Mike Groupon obviously is a company that everyone has heard about and is on the forefront of mobile, and we're very lucky to have you with us to tell the story of mobile and how you guys are really delivering success in the mobile world. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the first slide. So welcome, Mike. Let me hand it over to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Josh. Appreciate it. Yeah, so Josh gave me a little bit of an introduction. I can tell you a little bit about myself. So I've been at Groupon for about 4 years. When I first came on board, I wrote the original version of the Android app. Since then, I've been running the Android team, and I'm now running both the iOS and the Android teams. Prior to coming to Groupon, I also wrote a few other apps. If you're here in the US, you may be familiar with OpenTable, TripIt, or Dig. Those are all apps that I wrote on the Android side of things. Josh also mentioned I have an open source library. It's called RoboJuice, and it's a dependency injection framework for Android. We use it internally at Groupon, and a number of other customers use it. Microsoft uses it, and a bunch of other companies. Currently, it's deployed on, I think, over 100 million different devices.
Wow.
Yeah, and you mentioned the book. I'm actually working right now on the 3rd edition of the book. It's going to be coming out sometime in the winter, and I think the focus there is to update it and really talk about the new Android L, which just came out, which was just announced by Google in July. Android wearables, so if you have one of those fancy new watches, we'll be able to talk about that stuff in the book, and also the new Android Studio. So that's about it for me.
It lives right on the cutting edge of mobile right now.
Right, doing a lot of mobile these days. So yeah, let me switch over and talk a little bit about Groupon. Probably most of you have heard of Groupon, and probably a number of you are customers as well. Groupon basically started up about maybe about 6 years ago now. And the idea was they were one of the first and certainly the largest daily deal site. And it was targeted specifically on local merchants. So the idea was if you were a local merchant, you could run a Groupon and basically drive a whole bunch of users to your small business. We focus on great local experiences, so restaurants that are in your neighborhood, near your work or your home. We have experiences like going skydiving. The very first Groupon I ever bought before I even worked here was a flying trapeze class at a circus school over in Oakland. So that was my introduction to Groupon, and it was fantastic.
I have one sitting at home for track racing, sort of IndyCar track racing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that was sort of our first giant product, and it is where we remain really focused. So beyond just the daily deal, I think we have big ambitions, and what we really want to do is we really want to make it possible for local merchants to have a way to advertise and have a way to do analytics on their business in a way that they've never really been able to do before. So if you think of anybody who's trying to sell something on the web, Amazon, Google, eBay, any small startup that's trying to sell something, you have a million tools at your disposal. You have SEO, you have SEM, you have marketing tools, you have all kinds of different ways you have Google AdWords, you can reach new customers, and then not only can you reach new customers, but you can actually do a lot of analytics and tracking to figure out, what sort of marketing things are really working well for your business and what isn't. If you are a brick and mortar sort of mom and pop shop, that's not really something that you have a lot of access to. Traditionally, what you would do is you would run an ad in a local paper or something, and maybe over the next week you see a little uptick in traffic, and maybe you don't, and it's hard to really do any correlations on that. So you can think of the Groupon Daily Deal as a huge marketing campaign opportunity for local merchants. And what we really want to do is we want to provide merchants with these tools so that they can reach new customers and then do all the analytics to figure out, what's actually working to drive customers to their business and what isn't. What a lot of people don't know is that actually Groupon is very big into mobile right now. This year, we transitioned over to being more than 50% of our transactions on mobile. and that number is increasing as well. We have a lot of users. We've got about 10 million people who downloaded the various mobile apps just in Q1 alone, and over 80 million since we first made the apps a few years ago. I think the first slide mentioned that we've got 2.6 billion in revenue. If you do the math, what that means is that we're pulling in over 6 digits of revenue every hour on our mobile apps, and so it's very important to me and to the business and everybody involved that those apps work really well, and we are really focused on quality for those things. So yeah, let me talk. We have a few different apps here at Groupon in the mobile space, and let me talk about just 2 of them right now. So if you've gone into the Google or the iTunes app stores and you've downloaded the Groupon app, this is probably what you see. We're looking at the iOS version of it right here. But basically, we give you a list of deals that are local to you. You can scroll through them and browse them, and then you can click on one, and you can take a look at here. We've got a pizza deal, pretty good discount. It's over 50% off. And the way that this works is that typically you hit buy and you pre-purchase this thing. So you actually pay for the meal up front at a discount, and then you can go ahead and go into that business later and redeem it for the full value of the meal. In addition to these local deals, we also have sort of another pillar of our business, which is Groupon Goods. These are not local focused, so the idea is you can go into the Goods tab, which you can see here on the far right, and you can buy all kinds of different products, and they ship from our national distribution centers directly to your home.
I have to say, some of those have huge discounts. I happened to look at it yesterday, and a camera that we had purchased, like a pretty nice camera with detachable lens and stuff, was half price. So yeah. It made me cringe a little bit that I just paid full price for that. But,
yeah, it's been a fascinating ride watching Groupon Goods. When we first kicked it off, it was a very, very small part of our business, but it has grown phenomenally fast. Yeah. So that's sort of the consumer-facing app. Let's switch over a little bit to one of our main, you might say, B2B apps. So this is an app that we deliver to our merchants that they can use. It's called Groupon Genome. Many of you might be familiar with the Square point-of-sale service. This is fairly similar. It's a point-of-sale system that ships on an iPad. You get a nice little stand, and it's attached to a cash register, and you can basically manage all of your purchases, that kind of stuff. It's got a credit card swipe, and people can use this point-of-sale at a cafe or at a boutique shop or something.
And is this a general purpose, so it would totally take the place of your register?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's smarter than a typical register because it does give you the ability to manage your business. So you can see all kinds of different metrics about how your business is performing, month to month, week to week, that kind of thing. But one of the really unique things about the Groupon Genome product is that in addition to those things, it also allows you to run Groupon campaigns directly from it. So you can run advertising campaigns, take advantage of Groupon's tens or I'm not sure how many users we have at this point, but tens of millions or hundreds of millions of users, and drive a lot of eyeballs to your business, and then you can actually track how well that campaign works. And as people come in and redeem their Groupons, you get graphs that tell you exactly what kind of benefits you've seen. So yeah, it's a unique product. It's really great.
And was there a hardware component to that?
There is.
So you sell a dongle for the credit card, and is it like housed in something, or you just plug?
Yeah, the whole thing it's housed in a stand with everything. Yeah.
Okay.
So those are kind of the 2 main products I wanted to mention on the mobile side of things. I can switch over and talk a little bit about the team that we have here. So we have about 30 iOS and Android developers working on the mobile team right now. We have about 25 QA engineers split between manual testers and test automation. All the server work is done by separate teams. So obviously the mobile apps are using APIs, and those APIs are provided by other teams within Groupon. In addition to the iOS and Android platforms, we also support a few other platforms. So if you have a Kindle tablet or the new Android Fire phone, we do have Groupon app for that. We have Android Wear for your new watch, and we also have an app for Google Glass.
And how does the Android Wear component work?
So anytime that every day when you get a new Groupon notification for a deal in your local area, that notification will show up on the watch.
Got it.
And then we also have a few other products which we do outsourcing for. So we outsource our Windows Phone app, and we also outsource our BlackBerry app.
Okay.
And then in terms of process, so we basically run the teams using an Agile Scrum system. We're on weekly sprints for the most part, and we generally release new versions of the apps about every 5 weeks, and we interleave iOS and Android. So after we do, so as part of the release cycle, we have an internal dog fooding, or sort of a beta program that we have. And so we have an opportunity to do a little bit of quality assurance with our dog food program. And then on the Android side of things, when we roll out, we actually start out at a 5% rollout, and then we can amp that up to 100% over the course of a week. We don't have that opportunity on iOS, unfortunately, but on Android it's been phenomenally useful. And in terms of process, criticism has been really useful to us in those last two stages, in our dog fooding program and in our staged rollouts. And I can get into that in a little bit. So, you know, being in a relatively large company, I'm often in the position of explaining to other teams in the organization why mobile is so different. Everybody wants to get onto mobile right now. And, you know, there are things that you have to think about when you want to step into mobile. So the first one is just talking about scale. So there are more mobile devices than we've ever seen on any kind of other platform ever before. I think it was Mary Meeker who said that we were going to be around 1.75 billion devices this year, and the number is continuing to scale up. And you know, you look at when we were doing web stuff back with Web 2.0 and things, where we were targeting laptops and computers and stuff, that opportunity was like 1/10 the size of what we're talking about now. Another thing why mobile is different is fragmentation. We've all heard about fragmentation. It is a big problem on Android, but it's also a problem on iOS, particularly with the most recent versions of the iOS operating system. iOS developers have had to struggle a little bit with supporting new kinds of screen sizes and new kinds of UI interactions and things. So mobile has been really transformative for all of us. I mean, I think most of us can remember the first time we pulled out our new smartphone and pulled up Google Maps and looked at the world around us from directly on our phone. But in more subtle ways, it's been transformative. So app stores have really changed the way that we download apps. You know, we used to go onto all kinds of different malware sites and try to download Windows apps, and then yeah, it was a terrible experience. And the app stores have really changed that. And one of the key things about the app stores has been this idea of a rating system. So all of a sudden, you have your app is in a store, it's competing with other apps that are doing similar things, and users are able to see exactly which apps are fantastic and which ones are maybe they should avoid. So ratings is a really important thing to you as a developer. It certainly is for us. And then the other thing that a lot of people don't understand, engineers when I first start working on mobile, is that you know, if you're accustomed to web development and you want to be agile, you want to move fast, you want to build all kinds of great things, and if you make a mistake, you know, you can fix it and you can roll it out within a couple hours. That's simply not the case on mobile. So when you are making a new version of a mobile app and you push it out, you will basically have to support that thing for quite a long time. At Groupon, we have to support those things for multiple years. And the reason is because not everybody will always upgrade to the latest version of the app. Typically what we see is within the first few days or a week or so of releasing a new version of the app, we'll hit 60% penetration relatively quickly. But then after that, there's just a really long tail of people who just never really upgrade. And most of the time, we're not willing to abandon those users, right? So we have to support them.
And do you find this is similar on both the major platforms?
Mm-hmm. iOS users typically upgrade a bit faster, but they have a similar problem on iOS as Android. Yeah.
So one thing I thought I'd mention is we did a little bit of data mining on our side. So as I mentioned, we have about 1 billion monthly active users on Criticism, and so we looked at the database just to kind of get a feel of what do we see in terms of fragmentation. So I just penciled down the numbers here so I got them right. We see about 2,500 distinct devices, and I think, to be honest, I think we're being quite conservative on how we're interpreting that.
Not surprised.
When you count the different OS platforms plus the various different versions that you'll see within those platforms, we have over 100 of those. Plus, if you think of the fact that the mobile stack is dependent on usually some sort of internet connectivity via wireless or a carrier system, you know, we see over between 600 and 700 unique there. And again, I think we're being fairly conservative in how we count things there, you know, across the world. So kind of all those things together, plus all the back-end systems, there's just a huge degree of fragmentation and complexity inherent in the mobile stack.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a lot of different combinations, and here at Groupon we use A/B testing when we roll out new features. And so if you look at all those different possibilities, plus you add on the additional dimensions of A/B testing, you end up supporting all kinds of different configurations of your app all over the place.
Wow. Yeah.
So we really wanted to focus on quality at Groupon, and so we were looking around for products to help us out with that. And what we wanted was something that was going to really give us visibility into the entire mobile stack. This is essentially one of the things that we're going to talk about: performance and quality, not just for one stack. We wanted things that could work across all stacks, so iOS and Android. It was really important to us to have a tool that would allow us to just properly prioritize things that are coming into our system. We didn't want a tool that was just going to spray us with a fire hose of issues, but we wanted something that would give us a way to really dive in and figure out what's important for us to work on and what maybe isn't all that important. And as I mentioned, Groupon is quite large at this point. We do have a lot of customers, and the amount of data that we have can be overwhelming at times. And so we wanted to make sure that we had something that was going to work at the kind of scale that we're talking about. And then I think the last point I want to mention here is that, you know, as a developer, it was important to me to have a tool that would really tell me about individual crashes and individual quality issues that would help me debug these things. But as a manager now, it's also really important for me to have something that tells me about overall trends and tells me about, you know, how is this version of our app quality looking relative to previous versions. So let me tell you a little bit about some of the different uses that we have for Criticism. I'll go over 5 different cases that we use it for pretty much, you know, every day or certainly every week. So the first one is staging rollouts. So you know, essentially our quality process is that we have sort of internal feature testing, and then from there we have regression testing, and that all happens internally within the company. And then we'll do a staged rollout to about 5% of our users. And the interesting thing is that this will absolutely find issues. You know, there's no substitute for having a million monkeys pounding on devices. You just are not going to find them with a small team internally. So you should expect issues to come in, and what you need is a way to sort of capture that and really see those issues. And Criticism has been great for that. So essentially what we do is we roll out to 5% of our users, and then we just religiously watch the Criticism dashboards and see the issues when they come in.
Can I ask, how do you do the staged rollout? Like, what is, how is that implemented for you guys?
So again, that's functionality that happens on Android. That's not necessarily on iOS. What we do on iOS is we have an internal dog fooding program, so we can roll out to dog food people and do sort of a similar thing. But the Google Play Store allows you the ability, if you're in an advanced mode, to go ahead and do staged rollouts where you can have 2 different versions of your app, one for 95% of the users and one for 5% of the users, and then you can just change that level over time.
Got it. And then there was one question, if you could just define dog food for the
Oh,
audience.
absolutely. I'm sorry. That's a term we use all the time, and I forget people don't necessarily know what I'm talking about. It comes from the idea of eating your own dog food. So it's basically an internal beta. So you produce the product, and then you use it yourself so that you have a good sense of whether there are quality issues or not.
Perfect. Now we see this technique used a fair bit. I've had some customers refer to almost as a critter release. They don't necessarily do a stage rollout, but they'll do like one quick release and then immediately they'll do a point release, you know, in the first as quickly as they can to catch a lot of issues. But I think you guys are a little more advanced with using the staged technique as well.
It's great. I love it. It's made my life so much better. It's actually using staged rollouts combined with criticism has reduced the number of unplanned patch releases that we have by quite a bit. So we still do have we often have a little patch release that goes out during this staged rollout, but that's all planned. That's time that we can handle, that we know it's coming. It's the unplanned patches that are really disruptive to our development schedule and to our team. And so using these two things has really decreased the number of times that happens. And then on the crash trends, over here on the right, you can see a graph of 5 different versions of the app in different colors, and you can see basically over time the number of crashes for each release has gone down. So the most recent version of the app is down there at the bottom, and so what we do is we watch that. We watch for upticks in there to make sure that there isn't anything strange happening when we release a new version.
So just comparing the old and new. One more just definition question. Just regression. I think there's some folks that might help out.
Absolutely. So the way that we do QA testing is we have a few different stages of testing. So as we're implementing a new feature, we'll do feature testing on that feature to make sure that the feature actually does what it's supposed to do. And then what happens is you merge that feature into the release, and a lot of times that feature can inadvertently break some other functionality. So after you merge a feature into the release, you do what we call a regression cycle. And it's basically just testing the app, making sure all the flows still work, nothing unexpected happen. And that's essentially what regression testing is.
Perfect. Got it. Should we move to that?
Sure, yeah. So that's the way that things normally work. Normally you push out a release, you sort of check for quality issues, and then everything's hunky-dory after that. But every once in a while, you can have a problem of changing baselines. So basically, you push out a release, everything's fine for a few days, everything's fine for a few weeks, or even months, and then all of a sudden you start seeing weird, strange crashes that happen later. And these are typically things that are outside of your control. You didn't change your app, nothing happened, but it could be because one carrier rolled out a new OS update. We had a problem in the UK last month where Vodafone updated to Android 4.4.2, and that immediately started causing a whole bunch of crashes that we found only in the UK. It could be third-party libraries, like Google Play updates if you're on Android, or it could be your own fault. It could be server changes within your own company. So if your server starts returning a null instead of an empty string or something like that, maybe that causes your app to start crashing all of a sudden. Without something like criticism, these things are really difficult to find, because what you end up doing is you just wait until somebody reports it to customer service and wait for that information to filter down into your development organization. But if you have crash trends and you're watching them, then you can immediately see if there's an uptick all of a sudden. This has been fantastic and useful for us. In addition, criticism supports alert notifications, so you can set alerts when anything deviates from the norm. One of the relatively new things in criticism, which I've been really excited about, is it also helps us monitor performance. So the interesting thing about mobile is that if you're building a mobile app, you are ultimately accountable for everything about your app, crashing and performance. Because if you don't have good performance, your users will complain about that on the App Store. And so your performance is really your problem. But a lot of times performance isn't really necessarily your responsibility. A lot of times the issues with performance can fall outside of your own team. They can be problems on the server side. Certain API calls might take unexpectedly long amounts of time. And in the past, it was really sort of difficult to find that kind of stuff. If you're lucky, your server teams are doing performance monitoring and that kind of stuff on their side already. But there is nothing more powerful than me being able to go to a server team and say, here's a graph. Here's what our users are seeing in the real world right now. This call is taking 3.5 seconds. Like, what can we do to fix this? And Criticism really provides us that capability because it's tapped into our networking layer and it's telling us exactly how long our calls are taking as seen by the user. So it's been really great. It's been a great tool for us.
So just to clarify, so when you say performance here, you're speaking about how do connections to back-end services impact the end user experience on the device, right?
Exactly.
The dependencies, if you will.
Yep.
Okay.
So we have the ability to see the latency, how long the calls actually take, the error rates. That's been useful to help us find issues, as well as things like data throughput and other stats.
So we've seen other customers have, in their apps, they have somewhere, the average is about 6 back-end services that they're typically connecting to, plus or minus. Where do you guys fall? Is that roughly about right?
We are definitely connecting to a lot more than that. Yeah, I mean, we have multiple different API endpoints for different geographical regions. So we have a US API, we have a EU API, we have Asia, we have all kinds of different APIs that we're talking to. In addition to those, we have different CDNs, content delivery networks that we're talking to for serving up things like images. We are, of course, using Criticism for analytics, and we have a couple other analytics tools that we use as well for sort of the business side of things. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of different endpoints that we're hitting, and it's nice to be able to go to one place and see the performance of all those different endpoints. This is so simple, and yet it just astonishes me that that so many products don't seem to support this behavior here. But this is the fourth use case that I use, which is prioritizing our issues. So it's really easy when you push out a new version of an app and you start seeing the crashes come in. It's easy for the team to get distracted and say, oh, we need to fix this. The truth about the matter is that no matter any code change that you make is going to result in some weird crash for some weird user in the middle of the plains of Spain, and it's going to affect one person or 10 people or something like that, and it's not useful to spend your time focused on those users. What you really want to do is you want to sort by the number of users affected and just focus on the top issues. So what we do is, using Criticism, we actually sort by the number of users affected, and we have basically a first page mentality. So the idea is, if there's a crash on the first page, we fix it every release. And if you do that over the course of 3 or 4 or maybe 5 releases, pretty soon you've reduced your crash rate significantly. So
this is amount to sort of 5 to 10 major crash groups that you're dealing with?
About 10, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, yeah, Groupon, we've been doing this for a while now, and our crash rate is under 0.02%. So it's, and that's the trick. That's all we did, was just keep focusing on the first page and keep making progress every release. So. And then the last little trick that we use is some custom logging that Criticism provides. So when we're debugging issues, obviously the Criticism provides us with a stack trace whenever there's a crash, and usually that's enough. But it turns out in some cases it's not enough to figure out what's really happening. Particularly in the case of if you're using background threads, they may not tell you what page you were on when there was actually a crash. And so what you can do using Criticism is you can leave these little breadcrumbs around. So whenever a user changes what page they're on, you log a breadcrumb with a page name. Super easy to do. It's a one-line call, but it's phenomenally useful in those cases where the stack trace doesn't actually give you enough information to figure out what's going on. That is a manual breadcrumb, and of course you can use breadcrumbs for all kinds of things. You can log breadcrumbs for whatever you want, much more than page views. But in addition, they also provide networking. I don't know what you guys call it, but like networking breadcrumbs?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And that's automatic. That just happens automatically. And so in the cases where you neglected to set up a manual breadcrumb yourself, if you look at the networking call, it'll often tell you a lot about what was actually happening. So it's really useful for us.
So just to make it concrete, like what would a flow look like, that you'd be instrumenting?
Yeah. So for the Groupon app, when you first come into the Groupon app, we have what we call a carousel page. It's a carousel where you can swipe left or right and you can look at different channels.
Yep.
So the first channel might be featured deals in your area. The next channel might be Groupon goods. Another channel might be, go buy a vacation package on Groupon getaways. So every time the user swipes between those channels, it logs a breadcrumb for each of those different things. And then if you click into a deal, we'll log a breadcrumb for that deal that you clicked in to look at. And then if you go to click buy, we'll log a breadcrumb for that kind of thing as well.
So then you can basically rewind from when from the feature all the way down to the purchase.
Yep, to see exactly what they were doing before the crash happened.
Yep. Makes sense.
And then Criticism also supplies the ability to log the username. And so, this is also one line call, very useful. I recommend people do it. But what that does is that allows us to, whenever there's a crash, we get the username of the person who had the crash. And so I can go and take that information, go look at our Splunk logs on the server and see what that user was doing at the time as well.
Mm-hmm. And that it's some sort of ID that you can match up. It's not, it's all sort of hiding the PII, if you will.
Right. Yeah, there's no personally identifiable information.
Going back. Yep, makes sense. So while we're switching to this last slide, I just wanted to take the moment to remind folks that, please do, if you have questions, we'll have a little bit of time at the end to fire those off to Mike. So based on what we've talked about so far, what we're going to go through next, just fire them off into that QA pod and we'll get to them as well.
Cool. So obviously we are using Criticism here at Groupon. There's sort of two main reasons that we settled on Criticism. So sort of the technical reasons was because it's super actionable, it makes monitoring really easy, it provides us a lot of visibility into trending information, and it provides us all the information that we need to really debug crashes and stuff like that. One cool feature that has come in fairly recently is the geography information that you guys have. So whenever there's a crash, you tell us what country it was in, and you can show us a little distribution of the various countries. And most crashes are just distributed all over the place. But that one crash I just mentioned, where Vodafone UK did a new OS update for Android, the way we figured it out was because it was crashing only in the UK, nowhere else. And then we went and we knew it started on, I don't remember, April 15th or something like that. We did a Google search, April 15th, UK, Vodafone, and bam, it says Vodafone UK rolls out Android 4.42. It was super, super awesome.
Sherlock Holmes treatment style.
And then sort of the other main reason that we selected Criticism was because you guys are really an enterprise-grade solution for us. We haven't had any problems with scalability. We've been able to take all the data that we've been able to throw at you guys. There's a real clear ownership of data, which is very important to us at Groupon. I always say that if you're not paying for the product, then you are the product. And so knowing that we were able to pay Criticism and purchase this product and get good support for it whenever we need it. I have had the occasion to contact support every once in a while, and those guys have been super great and very responsive. Has been wonderful for us. And then the other thing is it's sort of development velocity. We've been using you guys for a while now, and you keep coming out with new products. You keep improving the products that you have. That's been really great. When I first looked at the landscape before we chose Criticism a few years ago, it was clear that you guys had a great product, and so we went with you. And in preparing for this webinar, I sort of went back and sort of took a look at the landscape again. And you guys have definitely pulled away from the pack. So I think that was great for us.
Thank you.
So, yeah. We've seen a number of benefits. So App Store ratings are super important. On Android, our App Store rating is 4.5, and on iOS, it's 5 out of 5, which we're very excited about. A lot of that has been because of crash reporting. Our stability has improved quite a bit. So back when we started, we were having crash rates right around like 1% or higher. And as I mentioned, we're down to under 0.02% now. For the development teams, this has been, for the development and QA teams, this has been really useful as well. We get a lot of information about every crash, and usually that's enough for us to figure out exactly what's going on. It's rare, it does happen sometimes, but it's rare that we can't figure out what the crash is just from looking at criticism logs. As I mentioned before, the way this used to work is you would wait until crashes come in and are reported to your customer service department. Your customer service department tries to debug it and then passes off to development organization, so it can take days for you to respond to issues. But using criticism, as long as you're watching the trends and setting up your alerts properly, you can respond to those things immediately, which has been great for us.
Does your customer support team actually have access to criticism, or?
No.
Okay.
No, it's used primarily with our developers.
We've seen some customers will, because they do exactly what you do, where you like link the ID, you can use that mechanism for them to kind of look up and see what happened.
Oh, interesting. I might want to have a conversation with them about that then.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and then as I mentioned, we're pulling in about 6 digits of revenue per hour on the mobile apps. And using criticism has made it so that it is rare that we actually have to do patch releases these days. So that's been super great. Okay, I think this is my last slide here. So basically, just sort of lessons learned in terms of quality on mobile. If you can afford it, you definitely want to have your own internal QA organization that are testing your apps. It's, as I mentioned, you don't want to push out bugs because they can be very hard to fix because people don't upgrade their apps all that often. So I know it's not a luxury that every development organization has, but certainly QA is very important to mobile development. Use betas or dogfooding or sort of staged rollouts in order to catch issues before they go into wide release, and team that up with something like criticism, which will let you quickly respond to issues. We have very dedicated dog food and beta testers who participate in our programs, but even so, we always find more crashes from criticism than are actually reported to us over our dog food program. So it's super useful. Use criticism to really prioritize the team on the right stuff. Part of being a development manager is balancing new feature development versus quality work. And as long as you're focusing just on that first page and continually every release driving down the number of crashes, it's a good way to balance your work. And just use the tool. Spend time looking at criticism and set up your alerts, track your key metrics, and make sure that everything's healthy. It gives me a lot of confidence whenever we push out a new release.
Very cool. Well, Mike, thank you for walking through that. I know we've got a few questions lining up there, so I'm going to go through just one slide, and I'm basically going to turn it back to you and start going through questions. I did throw out some along the way that we were getting, but I think there are a bunch more that I'm going to try find time for. So I'll be pretty quick on my part because you're the star of the show here. So just you've heard Mike talk a lot about the techniques, the tactics for ensuring that they're pushing out top-rated apps, and we're proud to say that criticism plays at least a supporting role in that. And the capability, the solution set that we offer that Mike's been talking about, very briefly, just wanted to be crisp about what criticism is providing here. We have a mobile application performance management solution. It is a SaaS-based offering that provides our customers two big, broad buckets of capability, and you've heard Mike talk about both. One focuses in on error monitoring, so that is crash, handled exception related reporting, so you can see your crash rates and the information, the diagnostic information associated with that. We also provide capabilities around service monitoring, so you heard Mike talk briefly about that, so how to actually monitor the performance of all the various different back-end or cloud services that your application connects to, and we monitor latencies and data I/O, error rates, all sorts of information down to the endpoint level across geographies. And for both error monitoring and service monitoring, we slice it up by all sorts of different mobile-specific criteria: the type of OS, the type of device. You have a user view, as you heard Mike talk about, using breadcrumbs, et cetera. And it's all built on a platform really designed for accommodating very, very large customers, exactly like Groupon, right? It's designed to have you turn on an app with millions of users or tens of millions of users overnight, and we should be able to absorb that without much of a hiccup. So that's what criticism brings to the table in terms of the solution that Mike's been talking about. So let's kind of draw things to a close here. You've heard, in many ways we've talked about how the mobile. It's for a lot of you, it's probably not news that mobile is exploding, but the complexity inherent in that ecosystem means that it is a challenge to really wrestle to the ground how to deliver a comprehensive and consistently good user experience. And there are obviously tools like criticism that help play a role in that. Groupon has been able to, as you've heard, really deliver a phenomenal user experience, as you can see both by the star ratings, the tremendous amount of revenue they're pushing through the device the mobile apps every hour, as well as the star ratings. Before I go to questions, and we will have a little bit of time here left for questions, Mike is kind enough to obviously be available so if you want to reach out to Mike there, feel free to do it via Twitter, so RoboJuice. And then if you have any questions for criticism specifically, feel free to email us. I put an email there. And more actionably, if you would like to take kick the tires on the product and throw it into your app and test it out, we have the ability for you to do that. It's a free sign up, so go ahead, just sign up on our site, and you can get running in 5-10 minutes very, very quickly to start getting this performance data and get a sense. So with that, let me start taking some of the questions. There are a couple of very high-level clarifying questions. You said 30 people on your team. Was that total across the two big platforms, or is that for each house?
No, that's mostly just for the consumer side of things.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And is that 30 for iOS and Android, or 30 combined?
Yeah.
Got it. One of the other questions was, look, we have the same problem with upgrading customers, and they take a long time to upgrade. Do you have any tips or tricks of how to accelerate that for your customers?
It's a good question. So for the most part, our strategy has just been to support them for a long time, and it's something that we're considering. It's something that we're thinking about. We do have a trigger mechanism where we can pop up a dialog on an old app and sort of say, hey, sorry, this version of the app is too out of date. You guys need to upgrade. But up until now, we've actually never used it. We're a little nervous to use it. We worry about people sort of getting annoyed and falling off the app. So I don't have any good solutions to that, unfortunately.
Well, different from the questions, it sounds like a problem that is universally felt.
Right.
So let me just take a quick look here. There's a question about crashes by version. Do you have insight into if it's version specific, or how to track the crashes specific to releases that you've done?
Let's see. So, yeah. So basically, every release we have sort of a combination of some crashes that are new to that release and some crashes that are basically not, that have been in previous releases. So for the crashes that are new, we give them a little bit higher priority. Even if they don't necessarily affect that many users just yet, we typically want to try to correct them. The app has been around for long enough that it's fairly stable that we don't typically, and our processes are a little bit more stable now, so it's not that often that we have new crashes for a release. So So we do prioritize those a little bit higher,
Mm-hmm.
and then after that we just work on that whole first page thing that we're talking about.
Right. And then you also, on the crash trends, you should be able to see different versions show up on your crash trends.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so you know, one of the fun things is watching those crash trends get smaller and smaller with every release. But typically when we roll out a new release, you'll see a slight uptick in the number of crashes for the latest release. That's totally normal. It's because more users are running the app, more users are using a disproportionate number of users are using the new version because they just installed it.
Right.
And then it'll settle over the next couple of days.
Perfect. There's one question here I think I'll tackle. It was about the network performance information that we monitor on the services. The question was, you know, do we sample or enable for all the customers? So it's something that we you know, capture on the device, and then we send up when there's already network traffic going on from the device, so we don't, you know, overtax the battery and, you know, turn on the radio transmitter. So that's all captured, and there are different plans at Criticism in the product. So depending on which plan you're on, you can get more insight, more visibility into the network data. But even on the basic tier that we have, you can still get some visibility into the network performance as well as the crash performance. I mean, to be honest, you know, at Criticism, we truly do believe that the two pieces, the part that relates to crashes and the part that relates to network performance, are really tied at the hip to deliver that experience. Here, I think there are a couple more, but I'm looking at time, and I think we should probably begin to draw this to a close. Mike, thank you so much. I think, you know, it's a real pleasure, I think, for the audience to have someone in your shoes that are delivering apps to that number of people with and the, you know, understanding how you deal with the challenges and the successes there. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is a great opportunity. I really enjoyed this.
So the last thing is, obviously, Mike is not just a presenter today. He's both an author as well. So as we mentioned, we would love to make available a copy of the book. So the way that we'll do that is we'll email you and we'll provide you with a gift card to make that available to you, so you can get it yourself from Amazon. So thank you everyone for taking the time to join us. Thank you again, Mike. We really appreciate it. And with that, we send you on to the rest of your day. Thank you very much.